Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking into the disappearance of Renee Diane Yeargain, missing since August 10th, 2004, Torrington, Wyoming, 24 years old, 5'8", 135 to 145 pounds. And you can pause this and read this if you want to. Let me scroll up because I'm going to read something else. And here's Namath, says 5'7" and 5'8". And you can pause that and read that as well if you like. And so I'm going to pause it. I'm going to continue and read something else. And this says, a woman won't give up seeking justice in Torrington's only unsolved missing person case. And there's this girl. It says, Jess Oakes briefly knew Renee Yeargain before she disappeared more than 17 years ago. The two worked together at the Little Moon Supper Club in Henry, Nebraska in spring 2003. Oakes had been charged with training Yeargain to be a fry cook. Both young 20-something mothers at the time, the two bonded over discussions about their kids and parenting. Sometimes they'd get together outside of work, but not that often. Oakes remembered Yeargain talking about her boyfriend, Josh Minter, and once showing up to work in his green Mustang. After Little Moon shut down that fall, the two drifted apart. Then Oakes learned that the house where Yeargain was living with Minter and her 4 children had burned down just after Christmas. Oakes had heard about the fire on the radio and reached out to Yeargain to see if they needed anything, since the kids lost all their Christmas presents. Later, Yeargain and Minter met Oakes and her mom at their storage unit and took what they needed. A few months later, Oakes randomly ran into Yeargain on the street in downtown Torrington. Both had been running errands, but they stopped to talk. Yeargain said things were going really well. She was getting married in August and was also following her dream of becoming a tattoo artist. Oakes, meanwhile, had taken a job as a reporter at the Torrington Telegram. Yeargain told her former co-worker she was excited to see where her life would take her. Oakes said words that ultimately haunted Oakes when not long after she saw her friend's face on the front page of the newspaper on August 10, 2004. According to the news reports, the then 24-year-old woman had disappeared without a trace, leaving her boyfriend of 3 years and 4 children 12 days prior to her planned wedding to Minter. And you can pause that and read that. It said, when questioned, Minter told police that Yeargain left the borrowed car she was driving at a rest stop in Meriden. How would he know where she left it? Midway between Torrington and Cheyenne. How would he know that? In the car were her purse, keys, cell phone, wallet, checkbook, and other items. Minter further told investigators that Yeargain had walked out of the home they shared with a grocery sack full of clothing and refused to say where she was going. No. That doesn't make any sense at all. At the time, her mother, Diane Van Horn, said that her daughter would never have voluntarily left for this long without contacting her children. Yes, Yeargain had struggled with her mental health and drugs in the past. Van Horn told the Scottsbluff, Nebraska Star-Herald in a 2009 interview, but she'd since cleaned up her life and was looking forward to getting married and had just gotten her tattoo license and planned to open up a shop in their home. She had all these plans, her mother said in the interview. I believe something has happened here, and I have questions that I want answers to. Van Horn's request for answers remains unmet. Today, Yeargain has not returned home, nor has her body been found. And between those facts lie a lot of questions and few unsubstantiated facts, which Oakes has been meticulously tracking for nearly 2 decades, and her 12 pages of detailed notes as Yeargain's case passed through the hands of at least 5 different investigators at the Torrington Police Department. Oakes personally knew Minter from high school and remembers him as a loner who frequently wore a dark trench coat and hung out with another student that her peers called creepy. Minter was artistic, Oakes said, recalling a troubled profile image of himself on his Facebook page that a detective alerted her to following Yeargain's disappearance. The illustration is of a brooding man in a black hoodie and dark-rimmed glasses surrounded by cryptic words and phrases in red ink, including sacrifice, involved, burden, and most hauntingly, I know the grave. The profile has since been taken down, but Oakes took a screenshot. It was really creepy, she said. Efforts by Cowboy State Daily to contact Mentor via social media were not returned. Yeargain had a pretty troubled life in general, Oakes said, including mental issues, a past history of drug use. She got pregnant with her first child at 15, and her fiancé had been killed in a motorcycle accident when the child was still a toddler. His death apparently haunted her. Oakes was told by friends, leading to Yeargain self-medicating to the point she might have been gone for a couple of days. She was also estranged from her mother, according to what Oakes has learned, as well as her biological father, a reported sex offender who has died since. A troubled past, Oakes believed, might account for the way in which her case was investigated. Oakes, who is no longer a reporter but instead works in the graphics department at Torrington Telegram, is frequently asked why she was so interested in a case involving a person she barely knows. But her answer is simple. If it can happen to her, it can happen to anyone. It could happen to her. She's also a single mother and worries about what could happen to her children if she disappeared. Would there be justice? She's not so sure. She doesn't have much family left. It's just her in Goshen County. She can't wrap her head around this happening in a community she's always considered safe. She also feels a complicated connection to her former coworker, given that she'd run into Yeargain just 2 weeks before she disappeared. She feels maybe that was meant to be and that it's her responsibility to help find her. She recently brought a new private detective from We Help the Missing to investigate, and for the first time in 17 years, a press release has been shared with both media and community. It hasn't been easy to continue, Oakes admitted. You run into one closed door after another. Like Oakes, Yeargain's youngest daughter, Angela Shermer, believes that her mother is likely dead, but is still seeking closure and would like to have her mother's body returned and someone prosecuted. Yeah, at least she'd be able to scatter her ashes. Right? Now 21, Shermer is making a life for herself in Wolf Point, Montana, where she works as a cashier at a gas station. Things are going pretty well, she said. That wasn't always the case after her mom disappeared. Shermer admitted life was downright anyway. All of the kids were put into different foster care families and lost touch with one another over the years. Her older sister Mariah has since died somewhere in Alaska, and her older brother Jonathan has no contact with the family. As far as helping law enforcement solve the crime, she doesn't have much to tell them from that time. She remembers the house catching on fire and being in a car accident with her mother, but otherwise memories are hazy. She has her theories, but they are just theories. Ultimately, she doesn't blame Yeargain, given that what she was battling, a lot of mental illness at the time. At the time, Shermer was pretty certain her mom would return home like the other times she had briefly left them. She too has a lot of questions and feels like the case could have been handled better. There's a lot of what ifs I had grown up with, she said, and there's nobody to ask. She feels betrayed by the police who thinks never gave her mom's case much time. I could have had a whole other life, she said, and I feel like the police failed me and my siblings, and it's very heartbreaking. It's time for some real action and effort, she said. And you can read the rest of this and pause it, but it's just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking that she disappeared and nobody's found her, nobody's found her remains or anything like that. So if you have any information, please contact authorities. It's been different investigators over time, so they might have different investigators than maybe if you had contacted them years ago. Here's the phone number. Don't forget to pray for her family and her loved ones. And feel free to leave comments and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.